Okay, let's talk about it. When is our final, first off?
17, I think.
It is, when is it? It's, we're Monday. Monday?
Monday.
Yeah, is that what it says? Yeah, we're Monday at 11. Okay, so final exam. Monday at normal class time. It's just totally normal. Monday 11 to 1. That means there's no class next Wednesday. So we just have class today, class Wednesday. You know, I'll finish up the new material today, start reviewing for the final. All day Wednesday will be reviewed for the final. Next Monday is our final exam. Yeah? Yeah, I'm sorry. I can't fix it afterwards if you didn't bubble.
No, I bubbled. Sorry.
Yeah, the Scantron doesn't make mistakes. You come up after. I can't, because the problem is people could cheat. Once it's back, they could change whatever bubbles. And so, so if you bubble too light, or if you bubble too things.
No, because he was comparing to mine. I got it right. He got the same stuff.
You can change it once it's back. Yeah, so I'm sorry. I mean, I don't want it to be that way, but there's nothing else I can do. People have cheated on me in the past, and they can change their answers. See, part of the cost of lying, it costs us all, right? Because I'd love to just give you the points back if I knew for sure that I was getting the truth. But people can cheat and lie and change answers and do all that kind of stuff. So that means whenever you do Scantron, guys, bubble light. Bubble light when you do Scantron. It reads it so easy. I remember I had to get a group of PG&E students ready for the PG&E math test thing. And it was a speed test. And so I spent some time playing with a Scantron machine and seeing how lightly you could bubble and it would read it. It reads it really light. So you can just barely bubble, barely bubble, barely bubble, barely bubble. It reads it. It reads it right away. So whenever you like the final or any Scantron test in any class, bubble really light. That way if you need to change an answer, you can go back and erase it. Because if you leave anything there, it's going to think you're putting two, and change your answer, it's going to think you're putting two answers, and it'll mark it wrong. So that's what it does sometimes. So bubble light so you can change answers if you need to. Thoroughly erase when you change answers on the Scantron. All right, anyway, final exam is Monday. Final exam is Monday, 11 to 1. You get one full sheet of notes, both sides. Not just a 3x5 card, a full sheet, like this size sheet, right? 8.5 by 11, normal size. So write anything you want on both sides of a full sheet of notes. How should you get ready for the final exam? Go over your old exams. That's the best way. Just go over those old exams. Yeah, of course, yeah. So what I'll do, you've got the answers, don't you? You've got all the answers to the old exams, and you got the 5 practice exams. You know, the practice exams might be a better way to go, because you have the steps written out. I mean, you can look back over like your old test, but the problem is all it's got is the answer, huh? It doesn't have the steps. Am I making any sense? Like right now, like if you were to look, you just got an exam back. Look at that exam. All it does is it, you know what, I'm sorry, I can't let you see other people's scores. I'll pass it back in a minute. So it just shows the right answer. It doesn't show the steps. So whatever you want to do, but I think the old practice exams might be the most helpful. They're still online. That's what I'm going to do, probably starting even today. Start reviewing those old practices. Skip number 1. Number 1's not worth anything. That's so easy for you now. It's not any problem. I would just start at number 2. I would really just work on 2, 3, and 4 because number 1 is too easy. It's just like adding. It's so easy. It'd be so easy for you now. 1's too easy, and 5 is fresh in your mind. I mean, they're on there. All 5 are on there. But 5 we just had, that's pretty fresh in your mind. And 1 is super easy for you now. It's baby math for you now. 2, 3, and 4 is really where you need to spend. So I would mainly just go back over practice exams 2, 3, and 4. Just rework those problems, you know. The final will be 40 questions. So it's longer, the final is, but we have the whole 2 hours instead of just 1 hour. 40 questions, 2 hours. Just review that old stuff. Yeah, all multiple choice. There's no open-ended ones at all. It's entirely multiple choice.
We're not going to get a study guide for the final?
No, it's just the old stuff. Just go over those old ones. Yeah, that is the study guide. Yeah, there's not a separate or special final study guide. That's right. Question? Yeah, what is it? It's 100 like a normal exam, but it'll count double if that helps you, right? Didn't I say? Yeah, that's right. So that's all true. Yeah, good question. So the final is 100 points like any other test.
but it'll count double if that helps you. Let me write that down and explain. But it will count double unless it is the lowest exam score. Does that make sense? So in other words, the final will be 100 points for sure. And then if one of your other 5 exams that you took is lower than the final, it will also take the place of that lowest one. So it'll count double. The only time that wouldn't happen is if the final's the worst one of all, then you don't want it taking place, then it'll just be itself. So I'm giving you hope here. There's a chance if you're somewhere and you want to raise your grade, the final can count double for you. It'll count as itself for sure for everybody. For most people, it'll also replace one of their scores that was lower than the final. Make sense? Making sense on that? The only time that won't happen is if the final's the lowest one of all. Then it'll just be itself. But other than that, if one of your other scores is lower than the final will replace it. The final will count double. It'll count for itself and it'll replace your lows. Make sense? So there's a chance if you didn't get some of the stuff down from exam 4, a lot of people exam 4 was the hardest one. You can study it again and get a higher score. Questions on that? That makes sense? We good? I have office hours to help. This week is normal. This week I'll be there Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, like always, 9 to 9:50. So W, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Next week is finals week, so office hours are different. Everything is different. What am I doing next week? I'll be there next week. I'll be there 2 hours before your class. I'll be there Monday 9 to 11. Come see me. And I'll be there Tuesday 10 to 11. And I'll be there when we don't care about these other ones. Your final's over at this point. 9 to 10 and Thursday 9 to 10. Anyway, I'll be over there in my office. I'm in math science. My office is Math Science Engineering Building, room 5. Questions on the finals? On the final exam? A week from today, it's over. It's all over. And you guys are going to be my highest percentage passing Math 201 in history, right? You bounced back pretty well on this exam 5. Exam 5 scores were higher. The average was, I forget, but it was way higher than the last one. I was glad to see that. So you handled that open-ended stuff pretty well. Most of you did. A lot of people, scores were a lot higher than the last exam, so that's good. Questions on anything? I'm thinking we're going to have a 70% pass rate or something. I'm up for a huge raise. I'm just kidding. It has nothing to do with that. Don't you think they should a little bit? I mean, I don't mean give me a raise, but I just mean, we've all had teachers that really shouldn't be teachers, but they never get fired because they have tenure, right? We've all experienced that, haven't we?
M201-P class.
What's that?
My M201-P class has an 18% pass rate.
Chemistry's hard though, but yeah, that's rough. That's rough.
Anyway, all right. Anyway, all right. So there we go. So no questions. We all good? A week from today, you're free of math. You guys are taking math in the summer or in the fall, right?
Yeah.
You want to remember, math is the main thing you want to get done for whatever your goal is, right? Math is the number one blocker. Remember? Yeah, unless you're a math science person, then you got a lot of math. But really, seriously, guys, I want to give good college advice. Remember my day one spiel. That wasn't just my opinion or my little feelings. That's statistically proven to be true. The number one thing that blocks people across the board, not only math more than other subjects, English or history or whatever, but math more than any other single life indicator. That's what the study, when UC Merced started up in the Valley about 10 years ago, they came and presented their findings at one of my math department meetings. And they said, we did a study in the Valley about what blocks people from getting bachelor's degrees who wanted and tried to get a bachelor's degree. And they found they didn't just study subjects, they also studied your race, your gender, whether your parents went to college or not, your financial level, all that stuff, which certainly affects things also, makes it harder. My parents didn't have a university degree. I was the first in my family, so I had to figure out the whole college world. That's kind of hard. My kids, they're just so spoiled. I tell them everything. I fill out their little college forms. I tell them, take this teacher, not that teacher. Do this subject, get your GE done. I tell them how the whole plan works.
So they have a little coasty world. I had no such help. My parents had never got a degree. So anyway, and plus I was on financial aid all the way, right? So anyway, so I know those things make it harder, but the studies show the number one thing is not those things. It's your math requirement. That's the number one blocker. Number one, the study showed, was making it through your math or having trouble in your math. So my point is, if you're having trouble this semester and you don't quite make this class, get back on that horse. Get back on that horse. Take this class again right away. Summer would be great. You can come in. Am I teaching summer? I'm teaching in summer. Is that true? Which session am I teaching? Second session. Yeah, I have 2 of them, right? I have 2 of these in the second summer session. 6 weeks?
Are you teaching us little things?
Not in the summer. Fall, though, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have one in the fall.
Registered for your fall.
Yeah, I have one in the fall. I have one in the fall, one in the winter. Yeah, so whatever, if you fail this class, get right back. Doesn't have to be me, it's somebody. But don't wait. Don't wait. Don't say, all right, I'm sick of math, I'm going to take a break. That's what people do who never get their bachelor's degree. That's what they do. They just get tired of it and they back off. Get back on. Get right back on the horse. If you fail, if you pass, great. Get right back on the next class. Just keep going until your math is done. It's the number one thing that'll block you, is your math. Don't forget that. Make it your priority. All right, enough with the spiels. All right, so there it is, 9.1. 3t squared plus 6t equals 0. 3t squared plus 6t equals 0. How do you solve that? Remember the steps? Let me write out the steps again. The steps for x squared with an equal sign. Yeah. Well, step 1 is get a 0, but you're right. We've already got the 0, huh? Yeah, if they don't have a 0, then you need to get a 0. Step 2 is factor, right, like the parenthesis kind of thing. And step 3 is each part equals 0. Yeah, remember that kind of thing? Is that good? So this section is going to be a lot of x squared. There's basically going to be like maybe 2 problems from this section on the final. From these new sections that we haven't had a test on, there'll be 1 or 2, maybe just 1. Probably just 1 problem from this section, 1 from whatever the next is, 9.2, 9.3, whatever it is, and then 1 from the appendix. There'll be probably 1 from each of these. So this isn't the main thing. The final is mainly those old exams, right? Like probably 37 questions will be from the old exams and 3 from these 3 new sections. So the main thing is go back over those old exams. All right, so I'll try to do this quick. So step 1, whenever you see x squared or t squared or any letter squared, you want to think get a 0. Remember I always do the sea monster when x squared rears its ugly head. You want to think get a 0. Well, we've already got a 0. Okay, so then step 2, that's step 1, check. Step 2, factor. Now, this one doesn't have 3 terms. If it had 3, like if it had a plus 7 at the back or something like that, then I would do the 2 parenthesis factoring, if they had a 3rd number at the back. But they don't have a 3rd number at the back. They just have 2 things. So how do you factor differently? You don't do the 2 parentheses. What do you do instead of the 2 parentheses? Yeah, just 1 parenthesis, and you put out what goes into both of them, huh? Remember that? If there's like the 3 numbers, that's when we do the 2 parentheses. Here we just do the 1 parenthesis. What's in common to those 2? Yeah, good job. Good job. You guys remember all this. 3 and t. All right, because 3 goes into 3 and 6, and they both have a t. Okay, so how do you know what goes inside? Remember, it's like whatever works, right? 3t times what would go back to 3t squared? T plus 3t times what would go back to 6t?
2.
Just 2, huh? Is that good so far? If you were to multiply that. So, James, is that making sense for you?
Except for the E on the field.
Yeah, if you put a T there, good question. It's funny you said that. I was thinking about mentioning that. That's not right, because we go back to T squared, huh? Yeah, good question. Everybody see that? That's a good clarification. We don't put a T on the 2, because if we did, that would multiply to be 6t squared, yeah. So now that we got it factored, now what do? Each part equals 0, right? Because remember, if 2 things are multiplying to equal 0, either one could be 0 to make them times and be 0, right?
So this could be 0 or that could be 0, and they would times to be 0, right? So the first one, the 3t, can be 0, or the t plus 2 can be 0. Either one can be 0, so they would multiply to come out to be 0. How do you solve for this first one here? Can I subtract 3? Got to divide, because the 3 is multiplied, huh? So I have to divide it off of there, not subtract it. And then that's just 0 over 3 is just 0. Right, good. And then the next one, subtract 2, negative 2. So there's our answers. 0 and negative 2. We good there? Questions on that one? Good. Shall we keep? Give you a second. Try that one.
Did somebody get their test back?
So whenever you see, here I'll rewrite it. Oops. Whenever you see x squared or n squared, you think, step 1, get a 0. It's already got the 0, so we don't have to do that. Step 2, factor. So again, this is 2 things, not 3 things, right? So we're not going to do the 2 parenthesis factor. We're just going to do the 1 parenthesis factor. What do they have in common? 9 and n. 9 and n, like that. So 9n times what? We'll go back to 9n squared. N. And 9n times what? Minus 1. Is that good to there? So far? And then you said each one, right? Because if I said, hey, I'm thinking of two things are multiplying to be 0, either one could be 0, right? 0 times anything is 0. So either one could be 0. So the 9n could be 0, or the n minus 1 could be 0. Solve both those, right? So the first one you divide by 9, that's just 0. And the other one you add the 1, so 1. So the answers are 0. It wants you to type both of them in with a comma. 0, comma 1. The order doesn't matter. You don't need parentheses. It's not like a graphing point. Just both answers with a comma. Questions on that one?
How are you getting the 1? I thought it would equal 0.
So I set it equal to 0 first, but then I had to get n alone. So to get n alone, you got to get rid of this minus one. You got to have the positive 1, or just jump it to the other side. You can just jump it to the other side because it's plus 1. Does that make sense on that? You can see if you go, but you don't have to check. But you can see that those are really the right answers if you go back, right? If you put in 0 for n in both cases, of course that's true, huh? 9 times 0 squared minus 9 times 0, yeah, that's 0. If you put in 1 in both cases, it's also true, huh? 9 times 1 squared, it's just 9 times 1 is 9 minus 9 times 1. 9 minus 9 is indeed 0. They both make it true. You don't have to check, though. This method is reliable. Don't need to check. All right. All right, how about that one? So I'm going to make it an x. My t's end up looking like plus signs. So I'll make it x. Minus 59x equals 6x squared. So when you see x squared rear its ugly head, like the sea monster rears its ugly head,
Get a 0.
what do we do first? Get the 0, huh? You want that to be just a knee-jerk reaction. As soon as you see that x squared with an equals, then get a 0. Get a 0. I think the rest will flow if you remember that or put that in your sheet of study sheet for the final. So see x squared with an equal, step 1, get a 0. So now how am I going to get a 0? There's no 0 this time.
That means I could jump the 6x squared that way, or I could jump the 59x, the minus 59x the other way. What do you want to do? Yeah, you always want that x squared to be positive, because he's going to be in the front. He's the most important term. He's in the front, so I don't want, if I jumped him this way, he'd become a negative 6x squared, right? Remember, signs change when you jump things. I don't want to make him negative. I want to keep him, positive. So it's easier to just move the other one. So I'm not going to move the 6x squared. I'm going to leave him where he's at. I'm going to jump this one on the left, so it'll be 0. And the right will have a plus 59x over there. Does that make sense on that? We good to there? So step 1, get a 0, we did. Step 2, so there's step 1. Step 2 is factor, with the parentheses. Is that going to be a 1 parenthesis or a 2 parenthesis? Are there 3 numbers over there? There's 1 thing, 2, just 2 things, huh? So we're just going to do the 1 parenthesis. I don't think 6 and 59, there's no number in common. So just the x, right? Just take out the x. They both have an x, but no number. Just the x. Be 6x plus 59, like that. We good to there? And then set each one equal to 0 separately. So x alone is 0, or 6x plus 59 is 0, right? Each equal to 0. This one's done. X equals 0. X is already alone there, huh? Now the other one, just jump the 59 to the other side, and we get 6x is negative 59, huh? And then divide by the 6. And so that's the other answer. So the answers are 0 and negative 59/6. We good there? Questions on that one? No questions? All's well? Yeah. Yeah. Right on this line, I moved the 59 to the other side of the equal sign. So, yeah, does everybody see what I'm doing there? So when I had this right here, I went ahead and factored, so I took out the x because they both had one. They both had an x. And then I set just it equal to 0, and then I did the whole 6x plus 59 equal to 0. I can just kind of redo it here. And then the 59 jumped to the other side. Whenever something jumps to the other side of the equal sign, it changes signs. So that became a negative 59. And then the last step to get the x alone was to divide by the 6. We all good? All right, so I'm going to make that x again because my t's look like plus signs. So make it x. Okay. Yeah, so can we could just do some like terms at first, huh? So just we can just subtract 17x squared minus 7x squared. That's 10x squared, yeah. And 10x plus 11x, 21x. Then what are we going to do? Move it over. I got to get a 0, right? Let's go ahead. Now, which way are we going to? Remember, you always want the x squared term. You want everybody to come to him, right? You want everybody to come to where the x squared term is. Does that make sense? Whichever side has the positive x squared, he's the most powerful term. He's the leader. Bring everybody to him. So I'm going to jump the 21x over to him, right? Does that make sense? So it doesn't, yeah. So just whichever side, left side, right side, doesn't matter. Just go wherever x squared is. So x squared's on the left. I'll jump over to the x squared. Is that good to there? Now what? Yeah, what factor, right? What do they have in common? They both have an x. There's no numbers. At 10 and 21, nothing goes into 10 and 21. Nothing in common. So take out the x, right? And then what goes on the inside? Well, whatever works. X times 10x would go back to 10x squared. And x times minus 21 would be minus 21x. And then you said each one, so the x alone is 0, and the 10x minus 21 is 0, right? They each get their own 0, because two things times each other to be 0. Either one could be 0, right? The first one's done. The second one, I'm going to move the minus 21 over. Becomes a plus 21, or regular 21. Divide by 10. 21 tenths. So the answers are 0 and 21 tenths. How's that working for you? Is that making sense? Uh-huh. Yeah, I never rewrote the. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, right. Good, yeah, so the two answers are 0 and 21 tenths when you type into the Math Excel thing. Okay, so these making sense. So we always, whenever we have x squared, whenever we see x squared, we always bring everybody to the x squared side. And that makes a 0, get a 0. Factor, set each one equal to 0 and solve. All right, so you could put one of these, to make your study sheet for the final, just as you go over those old exams, and, this stuff too, just put one of each type, if you have room, or at least one of each type that you really need on the study sheet, as you go back over the old exams. Okay. So there it is. There's w squared, same thing as x squared. So you know the game plan. What's the first thing we're supposed to do is get a 0. But we've already got a 0. So we've already got a 0 there, huh? So it's kind of out of order, though. Let me go ahead and put it in the normal order. W squared is supposed to be in the front, right? That good? So far, so good. Now, can you, that one has 3 numbers. Can you factor that one with, that one's going to factor with the 2 parentheses? Is that making sense there? I can do the 2 parentheses factoring. So you Use your calculator if you're not sure. What multiplies to be 50 adds to be 15. What times what is 50? So if you're not sure, take the 50 on your calculator.
5 and 10.
Calculator. And then just start dividing by numbers if you're not sure. So it's going to be 5 times 10, huh? All the signs are positive, right, up there? So everything's going to be positive. Oh, in the very end, it'll be both negative, yeah. So good so far? That makes sense? Those 5 and 10 multiply to be 50, and they add to be 15, don't they? That's my pair of numbers. We doing good? Just making sense? And then, what do we do from here? We set each one equal to 0 separately, and you can skip this step if you want to. Because what is it going to do? Then you jump it to the other side, and then they just become negative, don't they? -5, -10. And we're done. Those are the two answers. Questions on that? So I could have found those, I never finished over here. So you would have found those numbers by dividing by 5, and you would have got 10. And then that would have told you, oh, 5 and 10, those are my numbers. Right? So if you're not sure, if you're looking at some numbers, you're like, I don't know, take the 50 over to the side and start dividing by things, and the two numbers you get, what you divide by and the answer you get, are two numbers that might be able to make the middle. In fact, they do make 15, don't they? So those are my numbers. Is that good? Questions I can answer? So I'm going to make those x's again. 18 is minus 7x plus x squared. Okay, so that one to try. What's the first step when we see x squared?
Get a 0.
Get a 0. Bring everybody to the x squared side, right? Bring everybody to the x squared side, and then the other side will be 0.
X squared.
So I'm going to jump that 18, huh? And he'll become a negative 18. But then put them in order, right? Put the x squared first. You know the order we want. X squared first. Then the regular x, then the numbers. Like that. Is that good? Put them in their normal order. So again, we always jump everything to the x squared side. Then the other side is 0. Step 1. Step 2 factor.
-9 positive 2.
X is in the front. Good. Now we're looking for two numbers that multiply to be 18, add to be minus 7, right? Multiply to be negative 18, add to be minus 7.
9 and 2.
So what two numbers do you know that multiply to be 18? What times what's 18? Again, if you're rusty, just use your calculator. Take 18 and divide by 2, you'll get 9. Go, oh, 2 and 9. 2 and 9. Or 9 and 2. The order doesn't matter. 9 and 2, 2 and 9, whatever. The order doesn't matter, but the signs do matter, huh? How do we know how the signs go?
The middle sign with the bigger number.
Sign in the middle, sign on the bigger, right? The one that's in the middle always goes to the big guy. 9 is bigger than 2. wherever you have the 9. Doesn't matter where you have the 9 first or second, whatever. Wherever the 9 is, he's getting the middle sign. Always, huh? Because he's the bigger. The sign in the middle always is taken by the bigger of the two numbers. Right? Remember that rule? So minus 9 plus 2. That's working, isn't it? Right? Minus 9 plus 2 is minus 7, huh? If you lose $9 and you gain 2, you lost 7. If the running back loses 9 yards in the play, it's not football season, but it works. And then gains 2 on the next play, overall they're back 7, right? And they multiply to be minus 18, positive times negative. Good on that. And then, that's step 2. Final step, they each get their own 0, don't they? Because they're multiplying to be 0. And you know, that's, you can skip it if you want to. It's just going to be opposite, isn't it? Just jump it over, minus 2 plus 9, huh? Those are my 2 answers. It always ends up being opposite at the end because you jump to the other side with the 0. Questions on that? It's getting easier? Feel like you can do this? When you see x squared on the final in a week? All right, try this one. This is going to be that harder factoring. I'll make that x, I don't like t. So 3x squared, 19x minus 20. So which side are we going to jump things? Yeah, we're going to go to x squared. We always jump to x squared, so we're going to jump everybody left. It's like the hokey pokey. Everybody go left, right? So everybody's going left. So jump everybody left. And then the factoring, this is the harder kind. You remember where you got to do like the FOIL thing? It's not just the multiply add because you have the number in the front. It's harder. Remember, you got to do the whole FOIL, and you got to think about like everything with the inner, outer, and the arcs, the little happy face arcs, and it's kind of harder factoring. Remember those? Front times front, right? 3x and x. Front times front to make front, x squared. Remember these kind? And then you need last times last to make the last, the 20. Yeah, probably 5 and 4, huh? Probably 5 and 4 to make that 20 at the back. But it could be 2 different orderings. It could be 5 here and 4 there, but it's not. And the way you'll see is if you play out the possibilities. Remember, these are harder. So you say, okay, 5 times 4 makes 20. But how's that going to make 19? Remember, the middle comes from oi. It's not just add. It's not. Why did now? Do you know when you're supposed to just write multiply add and when you're supposed to write this whole FOIL? Number in the front. See how we had a number in the front? Look back. Let me show you. Look back. See the last one? No number in the front. So when there's no number in the front, those are the easy. You just do multiply add. That's what you'll see most of on the final Monday. Most of them are the easy kind. No number in the front. Just do multiply add. Those are pretty easy. But when there's a number in the front, those are the harder kind. So number in the front, harder, you must do FOIL, not multiply add. Right? Because of that number in the front there. So, okay, so what? What does that mean? Well, the middle doesn't just come from add, it comes from oi, which means inner, outer, outer. That's what this oi here is. O is outer with outer, right? Outer guy with outer guy. I means inner guy with inner guy. Remember that? Little review for the final here. We have these on the final. We had this a couple months ago, remember? You remember everything perfectly we've done over the last 17 weeks, right? Long semesters. So the middle two are 5x. And the outer two, 3x times 4, 12x. Now, can a 5x and a 12x somehow make the middle minus 19x? No way. 5 and 12 make 17, not 19. So it's not right. So what do? You cross them off and you switch them. Remember, the order now matters. Right? So that's why these are such a pain. So we put the, what is it? Is it 5 here? 4 there? Oh, that's the same thing I just did. Put the 4 here and the 5 here. Yeah, that's going to work. Now the two inner make 4x. The two outer make 15x. Can they make minus 19? Yeah. Both negative. If you lose $4 and you lose $15, you've lost $19. Both negative. And two negatives multiply to be positive 20. It's working. That was harder. That was harder factoring. When do you have to do that harder kind?
When the first term is not, just bigger, it has a closest.
Yeah, when the first term has a number. It's not just one. Number in the front. Got to do the harder FOIL factoring, not just the multiply add. All right, now what do we do from there? You set each one equal to 0 separately, right? You say, okay, 3x minus 4 is 0, and x minus 5 is 0, and you solve each one, right? This is going to be a little more complex too. You can't just say opposite. I mean, that's part of the story. 3x is positive 4, and then you got to divide by the 3. So 4/3, and then this one, jump the 5 over positive. So my answers are 4/3 and positive 5. So harder factoring when there's a number in the front. FOIL factoring, not just multiply add. Is that good? Questions I can answer? All right. I'll go to. All right. So 2. Let me change the color. 2m squared minus 32m is minus 126. All right. Try that one. So what's the first step? Get a 0, bring everybody to the m squared side, right? Get a 0.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. All right, so we jump this over, get a 0. Get a 0. And what should we do first on this one? Yeah, we can take out a 2. Does everybody see there's a 2 there? Remember these where you do the 1 parenthesis? And then on the next line, now you do the 2. Remember that kind of thing? Because they all have a 2 in common. It's two-step factoring. Remember the two-step factoring? It's like a little review of factoring here. So you take out the 2 because they all have it in common. You do the GCF step first. Take out what they all have in common. That's called the GCF, right? Greatest common factor. Take it out. And then do the 2 parentheses. Why didn't I do that on any of the other ones? They didn't have anything in common. Yeah, let me show you. Let me go back, because I think that helps. See, look at this one. Here, it's kind of all scribbled up now, but let me go back. Look at this last one we just did. 3, 19, and 20. They don't have anything in common, right? 3 doesn't go into all of them, or 2 into all of them, right? Look at the one before it. There's not even a number in front of the x squared. So they don't have anything in common. So it's only when they, like 2, 32, and 126, 2 goes into all of them, huh? So if there's something in common, we do that. And we always do that with one big parenthesis. Now, and then we do the 2. It's 2-step factor.
Dust.
One big parenthesis, then
Negative 32
2.
dust. Negative 32 dust.
You know, one thing you could also do, if you have trouble, if you're looking back at the practice exams and they seem confusing as you get ready for the final, you know, practice exams 2, 3, and 4 would be the main ones to look at. If it's confusing, you can always go back to the old YouTubes. They're out there, right? That's probably what you do for entertainment every Friday night, right? Watch those with your friends. Come on over this weekend. We're having a YouTube Math 201 party. We're going to watch some of it, right? No. But anyway, be good for review for the file. Because remember, exam 1, exam 2 review, exam 3, exam 4 review. We did those. I captured those on YouTube. So the review we did in here is out there. So go back, all the steps, you know, all that's out there. All right. M's in the front. Multiply. Add. Right? So what multiplies to be 63? If you're rusty, take your calculator, take 63, and just try dividing by things. You'll find if you divide by 7 that it's 9. 7 and 9. You go, okay, 7 and 9. How can they make minus 16 in the middle? Both minus, right? If the football team loses 9 yards and loses 7 yards, they lost 16. Good to there. And now we set each part that has a letter equal to 0. Skip the 2. He doesn't have a letter. Do you see why I skip him? It's because he doesn't have a letter. If that was 2m in the front, then I would set him equal to 0 also. But if it's just a number, I mean, you can set it equal to 0 if you want to, but what good is that going to do? 2 doesn't equal 0, right? But set the other 2 equal to 0, right? M minus 7 equals 0, m minus 9 equals 0. Jump it over, jump it over. You know the drill. It's going to be plus 7, going to be plus 9. And that just doesn't do anything. Does that make sense? There's no point in setting a number, just a pure number, equal to 0, because that's just not true. 2 doesn't equal 0. But the parts that have letters, they can be 0. Solve for the letters, 7 and 9. It's almost off the screen there, huh? 7 and 9 are the answers. Good. Man, I have no screen today. Good. Questions on that one? Good practice for all the stuff we've learned. All right, so m minus 1 plus m equals minus 13, 2m plus 12. Okay, so distribute. First step is just go ahead and distribute on those. Does that make sense? Just multiply, distribute, and then you'll get an m squared, and you know what to do from there. Get everybody to the m squared side, 0. What's 13 to 132? No, it's not, is it?
156.
156, thanks. Okay, it's getting to that point. So what should we do now? Which side should we jump everything to? To the left side, where m squared is, right? You jump everybody to the side where you've got the m squared. So jump everybody left. So we got minus m plus m squared plus 26m plus 156 equals 0. Get to there so far. Then you can just gather some like terms. So it's minus 1m and plus 26m is plus 25m. Good so far? Okay. Now, what multiplies, I don't even know off the top of my head. Grab that 156, use your calculator. I don't know, start dividing.
13 and 12.
Is that what it is? Oh, yeah, good job. Yeah, I wouldn't have known. Just use calculator. Oh, yeah, it came from 12 times 13, didn't it? I should have known. Yes, that's true. Anyway, I forgot about that. It's easy to forget about that. Just divide by this. This isn't it. So you get 78, and you go 2 and 78. No way. Then you divide by 3 and some other number. I don't know. 52, and you go 3 and 52. No way. Divide by 4, you get 35, 39. You go 4 and 39. No way. Divide by 5, it doesn't even work. Some crazy decimal. Divide by 6, you get, I think, 26. You go, no way. Divide by 7, doesn't even work. Divide by 8, and it's something, it doesn't even work. So this is a painful one. Divide by 9, it doesn't even work. Divide by 10, it doesn't even work. Divide by 11, it doesn't even work. Divide by 12, and you go 13. You go, oh, yeah, there it is, 12 and 13. That makes sense? So if you get some weird number you don't know, like 156, just start 2 or start wherever you want. Just start dividing a bunch of numbers. And anytime you get an answer, consider maybe those two are your numbers. But remember, they have to add to be 25, don't they? See why I was rejecting many of them? They have to add to be the middle number. They have to add to be 25. 2 and 78, no way they're going to add to be 25. 3 and 52 don't add to be 25. 4 and 39 don't add to be 25. 6 and 26 don't add to be 25. 12 and 13 do. 12 and 13 add to be 25. They're my pair. Right? See how that works? So then those are your numbers. Put your parentheses. M's in the front. 12 and 13. Everything's positive, right? They add to be 25. They multiply to be 156. So what are the answers then? Minus 12. You know, it's opposite, opposite. Can I just skip that step? Minus 12, minus 13, right? From the parentheses to the answer is opposite, opposite. There it is. Questions on that one? No questions? We good? All right, let's jump into number 3. So here I'm at number 3, 9.3, the quadratic formula. All right, 6x squared plus 17x equals 45. Give it a try. This will be a little bit harder.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Quicker if you can factor.
Yeah, but then it won't add up to be 17.
You have to use the quadratic.
Yeah, so what's the first step? What's the first step in all these x squared problems?
Yeah,
Get 0. So where are we going to jump everybody?
just transfer the 45.
Yeah, jump to 45, right? Move it over. Becomes a what? A minus 45. Good so far? Good. Now, you could try to factor that it's one of those hard ones because it has a number in the front. You know what I mean? You'd have to do the whole FOIL thing. And that's hard. So here I've got an alternative for you, which you're going to like better. Everybody likes this better than factoring. Like the hard factoring, like this one. Instead of factoring, let's use the quadratic formula. What's that? Negative b. You write this on your sheet for the final. Negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Seen that before? That's the quadratic formula. It's pretty easy to use. I'll show you how to use it. Most people like it. It's pretty much just button pushing it ends up being. And it'll automatically give you the two answers without having to factor. Okay, so I am going to plug into that formula. Now, what's this A, B, C stuff? Well, the A is the first number in your problem question, B is the second, and C is the third. And so the A is the 6. It doesn't include the X's. The A, the B, the C, they're just the numbers, not the X's. Does that make sense? The A, B, and C are the numbers from your problem, not the X's, including whatever signs in front of them, positive or negative. So the A, B, and C are the numbers from your problem. They don't include the X's. Okay, so let's plug. Now, this is a big old formula. Notice it's got some of its own signs, like that B. That first B is a negative B, right? That minus sign right here, that is in addition to any sign you would plug in. Well, we'll see. B is what? 17, so I'm going to put a 17 right there. Negative 17. So far, so good. I just took the B and put it in right here. Plus or minus the square root. Let me go slow with you there. Does everybody see what I'm doing? I'm just going to grab the B and I'm going to stick it in the B slot there. Right? So I just grabbed the 17 and I went pop right there. Right? Is that good? Square root of B squared. Now, parentheses would be helpful. 17 squared minus 4 times A times C. What's A? 6. What's C? Negative 45. I'm running out of room there. I'm going to make that smaller. Made this all too big. All over to A. What's A? 6. Let me stop there for a minute. Does everybody see what I've done so far? So I took this formula, B squared plus or minus this whole thing, and everywhere I had a B, I stuck a 17. 17, right? Those are both B's. I put a 17, right? And everywhere I had A, I put the 6. A. And everywhere I had a C, I put the minus 45. So I just stuck the numbers in the place of the letters. Is that good so far? And now we just work that out. So what is that? Negative 17 plus or minus the square root. You guys have a calculator? What's 17 squared? 289. Yeah. 289. Now, let me help you here. Watch out for the signs. Everybody caught up here? Because I want you to see this. Everybody caught up? Able to watch? See, there's a minus here and a minus there. So when these three are going to multiply together on your calculator. Take your don't worry about signs. Just take your calculator. Everybody see what I'm doing there? Question, James? Everybody good there? Is that making sense? I'm going to multiply those three together on my calculator. But what's the sign going to be? Because it's 2 negatives. So you know it's going to be. So don't worry about signs on your calculator. Just look and decide, okay, 2 negatives is positive. And then just take 4 times 6 times 45. And tell me what it is, because I can't do it.
1080.
5,080?
1080.
1080?
Yeah.
10,080?
No, 1080. 1080.
Oh, yeah, gotcha. Just 1080.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Over 12. Good so far. Everybody see what I'm doing. So I'm just taking this formula, and I'm taking the B and put it there, right? And I take the A and put it there, 4AC. So put a 4 on whatever A is, and whatever C is, right? Multiply those together. Add them and all that stuff. And what do we got here? So minus 17 plus or minus. Let me get that one. What is it? 1,300 something? 69. Thanks. Over 12. And it's negative 17 plus or minus. What's the square root of 1369 on your calculator? 37. Thank you. Over 12. Everybody good so far? So I'm just working out the numbers on my calculator. Well, you guys are telling me what they are because I don't have a calculator. So is that good so far? Now, what are we going to do at this point? Let me bring it up here. And we're going to have to do the two options. Let me do the two options. Minus 17 plus 37 over 2 and, or, whatever you want to say there, minus 17 minus 37 over 2. Why did I do that? Because it says plus or minus. See that? That means you have two separate problems, really. The plus minus, I don't know if that was bugging you all the way through, but the plus minus really is shorthand notation for two separate problems, a plus one and a minus one in the middle. Oh yeah, I messed up. It's supposed to be 12. Thank you. Yeah. So is that good so far? Is that making sense? Then we just use our calculator. What is this one going to be? It's going to be, what is that? 20 over 12? Yeah, 20 over 12. Right? 37 minus 17. Just use your calculator. Then divide by what? 4? Be 5/3. And then this one minus, use your calculator, 4, 7, 54. 12ths divide by like 6. Minus 9 halves. Those are the two answers? 5/3 and minus 9 halves. We're done. So here's the answers. 5/3 and minus 9 halves.
Oh, you're doing a calculator.
So let me run over it one more time. So you want to write this formula on your study sheet for the final. Negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And what the a, b, and c are in this formula is they're the three numbers in your question. Without the x's, just the numbers. A, B, C. 6, 17, minus 45. And then you just plug those letters in those slots and work it out. And you get the two answers. Because the plus or minus means two options. Is that good? Questions on that? So we got our test. It's a little easier than factoring, I think. Factoring is kind of guessing around stuff. This is just straight ahead. Let's try another one. Okay, so what's the first step on every x squared question? Yeah, get a 0. You can't do the ABC right now. You have to first get the 0. So step 1, like always, get a 0. So jump that 45 over, right? And it becomes a minus 45, right? So get a 0. Then peel off the A, B, and C. Here, I'll write the quad for you. It's negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So peel off your A, B, and C. A, B, and C, right? A, B, and C are just the numbers, not the x's. So plug in, we good? Negative 8 plus or minus the square root of b squared. 8 squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a, and a was 4. Good to there? And then crank it out. Is the sign in the middle here going to be plus or minus?
Plus.
Yeah, because we have one minus sign here and another there, right? So just count your signs. You know 2 minuses make a plus, don't they? And these 3 things are all multiplied together, aren't they?
Yep.
Those 3 things are all multiplied together in the formula. So it's going to become plus. Just use your calculator. 4 times 4 times 45.
720.
720? Thank you. All over 8. Is that good so far? James, question? Good. Any questions? We good? All right. Negative 8 plus or minus square root of 7. What is it? 84? All over 8. Then hit the button on your calculator. What's the square root of 784? 28. Thank you. All over 8. See the roots? Why did the root vanish all of a sudden? Because we did the root, huh? When you do the root of 784 and get an answer, then there's no more root on it. It's been rooted. So you'll only do it once, and it's gone, right? So then we just do those 2 options. I'll bring it over here. Negative 8 plus 28 over 4, and negative 8 minus 28 over 4. Just do the 2 different options.
This is a lot easier than trying to sit there and guess what numbers go where.
Yeah, most people prefer this to factoring.
Well,
But
it's definite.
yeah, you just step, answer, huh? Yeah, question, Martha. What's that?
4?
Oh yeah, I'm messing up, aren't I? I'm really messing up today. Thank you. 8, huh? Right, supposed to be 8 down there? Yeah, thank you. And then that's 20 over 8. And we got to reduce that, huh? What's that, 4? 4 going to both those? So that would be what, 5 halves? That's one of the answers?
Yeah.
Is that good there? And then the other one, what's that, minus 36 over 8? That one, is that one 4 as well? Divided by 4, top and bottom. Minus 9 halves. There's our 2 answers. The quadratic formula. Questions on it? Is that okay? Using the quad? Anything I can answer up there? All right. Now,
5.
let's try this one. Now, they'll tell you on this question to use the quad, but you don't have to, and I wouldn't. If they're really easy to factor, factoring is easier. Well, that was kind of a dumb statement. If they're really easy to factor, factoring is easier. Yeah, but you know what I mean? I mean, like, if you can just see the factoring right away, do that. That'll save you time. So let me write that. So, when you can factor, do that. So look at b squared minus 25. Don't say it out loud. Give everybody a chance to remember. Remember, there's a way to factor that with like the 2 parentheses. Remember b squared minus 25? Yeah. Remember the b's in the front. Plus 5 minus 5. Remember that? Because that'll multiply to be negative 25, and that'll be 0 in the middle. That's why there's no middle term. There's not a b squared plus 3b minus 25. There's nothing in the middle. Why? Because it's really 0. Because plus 5 and minus 5 make 0.
But there will never be a b to the second plus 25. You can't do it with that.
Right, exactly. Anyway, so now you set each one equal to 0. Remember how to do it this way? And then you just jump it over, jump it over. So the answers are negative 5 and positive 5. Done. Easier than doing the whole negative b, the quadratic formula. So if they're quickly factorable, like an easy factoring, just do that, and you're done. That's better, right? So that would be my advice for the final. On the final exam, when you see an x squared question, b squared, x squared, whatever, try to factor, because if you can factor, that's pretty quick. If you're not sure how to factor it, or if it's real messy, then you could always do the negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a when you cannot factor. I'm being kind of scribbly there.
Okay, but what would the third term end up being? B to the second?
It's actually the middle term that's missing. The middle term is 0. The b is 0. And how do I know it's the middle term? Because the first one's supposed to be x squared, the middle one's supposed to be regular x, which is missing, and the back one's supposed to be just the number. So that negative 25 is c.
Okay, so
It's actually
B
C.
to the second minus 0?
Yeah, so it'd be negative 0. Plus or minus square root of 0 squared. Minus 4, yeah, so the b would be 0. But anyway, we don't want to do that with the quad. It would work, but that would not be the easy way to go. So I'm not going to say any more about that. Grab me after if you want to talk about that.
Which order you have that in divides, whether it be the
Doesn't matter.
positive or the negative or the
Nope.
negative positive.
Doesn't matter. Yep.
So the both formulas work?
Both formulas work. So use this one when you cannot factor. And when you can factor, that's quicker. Does that make sense? All right. So this is how we handle x. This is how we handle x squared with an equal sign, right? We factor if we can. If we can't factor, we use the negative b, plus or minus. You want it. Part of what you want to get ready for in the final is being able to recognize things. A lot of the battle is recognition. You want to see an x squared with an equals and go, oh yeah, I remember that kind. That's the kind where you got to get a 0 and then factor if you can. If you can't, do the negative b plus or minus thing. A lot of it's recognition. You want to have categories in your mind. X squared with an equals. Oh yeah, that's the whole 0 factor quadratic thing, right? Everybody seeing the category? Because you don't want that. You know, if you have that experience, I've had it, where you get a math test in your hand or a science test in your hand, and you look at it and you go, they all look alike. They all look alike. I mean, how do you know what to do? Well, that means I hadn't studied enough, right? More studying, more recognizing the small differences and what to do when. So you got to keep studying until you can look at it and go, oh yeah, x squared equals. That's a certain category, right? X squared equals, we do the quad if they're hard to factor. If they're easy to factor, we just factor, right? So put that on your 3x5 card. You get a whole sheet. Put that on your whole sheet for the final. X squared with equals. Factor if you can. If you can't factor, do the quadratic. That's the game plan for x squared with an equal. So have that right on your sheet of paper. X squared with an equals. Factor if you can. If you can't, do the negative b plus or minus thing. Okay, so there's x squared with an equals. So what do we do? What do we try first? Factor. See if you can factor it real easy. If you can, great. You're done in 2 steps. If you can't factor, then No problem. Do the negative b plus or minus thing. So it's always about getting a 0 first, right? Step 1 is get a 0. We've already got a 0, though. So I'll say step 2, try to factor. If you cannot, then use negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2i. So get a 0, try to factor. If you cannot, then use the negative b thing. That's the x squared equals game plan. There'll be like 3 or 4 of these on the final. They're big points at that time. You know, they're counting double for you. So they can really help you out if you're real comfortable with these. Get a 0, try to factor. Does it factor? Did you guys, so get a 0, we've already got a 0. Did you try to factor this thing? Like the 2 parentheses, I mean, you know? Multiply, add, kind of factoring. It doesn't work, does it? And don't waste too much time on it. Just give it a quick try. Just go, look, all right, what are 2 numbers that multiply to be 4? Well, 2 and 2. Do they make 12? No. How about 1 and 4? That multiplies 4. Do they make 12? No, all right, forget it. Go right into the negative b. Just quick. Don't waste a lot of time. That one's not factorable. You have to do. So then just go, okay, I'm going to do this thing. So that makes sense, how you want to attack x squared on the final next Monday? Give factoring a quick try. If you can the last one we just factored it real quick, right? Plus 5 minus 5, we were done. But if you look at it, it's not quick, it's not immediate, then go right on to the negative b. So go ahead and finish this problem up now with the negative b plus or minus the square root of that whole thing. Plug in your a, b, and c. Remember, a, b, and c are the numbers. What's a? What's a on this one? 1. Yeah, remember it's the numbers. So a is 1, that's a. B is the 12, c is the 4, huh? Remember, it's just the numbers, it's not the x's, right? A, B, and c are just the numbers in your problem. Not the x's. A, B, and c, 1, 12, and 4.
Negative 12 plus 145 16 over 2.
So negative b 12 plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. We good to there so far? Plug in your a, b, and c to the old quadratic formula. Hopefully I didn't mess up this time. 4ac. 4ac over 2a, right? Good. And so then it's negative 12 plus or minus. It's 144 minus 16 over 2. It's negative 12 plus or minus 128. Oh, it doesn't come out nice, does it?
No.
Oh, yeah, let me help you with that. We all good to there? We all get to there? Okay, negative 12 plus or minus the square root of 128 over 2. Everybody good? I just plugged in A, B, and C up here. It's nothing magic. I just got A is 1, B is 12, C is 4. Plug them in. Boom, 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 boom. Plug in A, B, and C. And then just hit the buttons on the calculator. Right? That's all I'm doing. James.
Negative 12 times 12 squared. Is that what you're saying to do?
Are you thinking this 12 is multiplied by that 12?
Yeah.
What about all the stuff in the middle? They're not right up against each other.
That's one of those.
Right? Because when you got stuff in the middle, that's not times, right?
You lost me.
Okay, so what, so is your question, are these multiplying each other, is that your question? Yeah, so no, because they got all that stuff in the middle.
Mhm.
That makes sense, so that plus minus in the middle, these are not multiplying. So I'm just taking this one, 12 squared,
Okay.
and getting 144,
Then, oh, yeah, I got you now.
is that good? And then multiplying these? Alright, and so now we're down to here. Now, this root 128, if you hit it on your calculator, it's something ugly, huh? It's just some ugly decimal. Yeah, if you have the nice Casio natural display, it's, what is it, 8 root 2?
8 root 2.
Yeah, great. If you don't, you're going to have to find that out by hand. Yeah, one way or the other, you've got to get to the fact that it is 8 root 2. Exactly. So let's do that. Let me come up over here. So square root of 128. Use your calculator. Well, if you get the nice one, it's just 8 root 2. What? 2 goes in, 64. Oh, there's nice. 8 times 8. As soon as you got a matching pair, you can do the ship out thing, huh? 2 in, 1 out. So 2 8s in, 1 8 out. So that'll be 8. 1 8 comes out. And the other 2 is left inside.
Yeah, but how are we to solve it?
Yeah, we're not done yet. But everybody good to there? Everybody good to there? So this becomes negative 12 plus or minus 8 root 2 all over 2. We have one more step to take, but I want to make sure we're all caught up and on the same page. Is that making sense there?
Oh, we're gonna multiply by root 2? Oh.
We're going to divide them all by 2. Everybody good to there? We all caught up? Questions up to that point? Is that making sense? So the root of 128 became 8 root 2, didn't it? By calculator or by handwork this way. You remember how to simplify roots, right? We break them down and do the 2 for 1, right? That's the golden rule of roots. 2 in, 1 out. 2 8s in, led to 1 8 out. All right, so now, here's the question. Remember what we've learned about pluses and minuses, how they glue things together? Right? And they make it a package deal, Costco, that whole analogy, right?
Yeah.
So, see the plus and the minus right here between the negative 12 and the 8? See how they're glued together? So I can't just cancel like these two only. That would be illegal. I'd be breaking part of a package deal. Remember when things are plus or minus, they're glued? I have to also do those two. As long as you do both of them, it's okay. You're doing both sides of the glue bond. Both sides of that. Does that make sense? So what I'm saying is divide all 3 of those by 2. Divide by 2. Divide by 2, divide by 2. As long as you do all 3, it's okay. So you get minus 6 plus or minus 4 root 2 over 1. Does that make sense? I divided all 3 of them by 2. Is that good to there? And so now that 1 that's in the denominator, we don't need that. We never leave 1s in the denominator of any answer, do we? So just ignore that. The whole bottom disappears because it was just 1, and we don't need that. Everybody good to there? Last step, separate them. Minus 6 plus 4 root 2, comma, minus 6 minus 4 root 2. There are the 2. I just separated. Remember, the plus and minus always breaks into 2. Hey, can I subtract these? You can tell by my tone, no is the answer. But why not? Why can't I make that minus 10 root 2? Why can't I go minus 6 minus 4 is minus 10? Or do the other 2. Minus 6 plus 4, minus 2 or whatever. Why can I not do that? They're unlike terms. If this 6 had his own root 2, then they'd be like terms and I could combine them, right? Remember when it comes to roots, if it was minus 6 root 2 minus 4 root 2, yeah, then it would be minus 10 root 2. They have to have the same roots, like roots, in order to combine. But if one has a root and one does not, it's like you know what it's like? It's like looking at minus 6 minus 4x. You can't make that minus 10x. right? Because if he had an x, the first one, if they had both had x, is okay. But if one has an x and one does not, they're unlike. If one has a root 2 and one does not, they're unlike. They're done. We good? Questions on that? The box holds the answer.
Why you do Casio display?
Does that make sense? That's the answer? Questions I can answer? See what we did then? So all this is just the button pushing. Got it on down to here, simplified it. Got it to here, right? Got it to this point. And then I just divided the 3 outside numbers all by 2. So everybody see that? The 3 numbers that are not in roots. The minus 12, the 8, and the 2. I divided all those by 2. And that's how I got this. Right? And there's no more denominator. Where'd the bottom go? Well, it's just 1. 2 divided by 2 is just 1. We don't leave 1s on the bottom. They just vanish. Dividing by 1 does nothing. It vanishes, right? That good? Are we happy? You guys don't look happy. I'm looking for happiness.
On the calculator right here.
Oh, calculator does the whole thing. Nice. Yeah, you Casio natural display. You can just type the whole thing in as one big. You can just type this whole thing in just like this, and enter it. It'll go all the way to the end. It'll just simplify it for you.
But isn't that like cheating?
It's all levels.
See,
Somebody could say having a calculator at all is cheating. Got to add and subtract yourself. So it's just all how much.
I mean, that's kind of my fault on the last test.
Not everyone felt like it was so easy. Well, at math, she's in calculus in high school, and she's talking about medical school, but she's always using a calculator. And I looked up the medical school exam, the MCAT, on the internet the other day, and it says no calculator at all. And I said, Lizzie girl, I just looked up the MCAT. You want to take that medical exam? It says no calculator at all. So now when I help her at the table with math, she's always reaching for that calculator, and I pull it away and go, want to take the medical exam? No calculator. It's all levels. Yeah, you want to be a doctor? You better be able to do this with no calculator at all. But we're not all wanting to become doctors, right? So let's just do this. So, all right, so how would we do this one?
If nothing goes into it, wait.
Now you can try to factor. If you want to. It's a waste of time.
You like my drink?
But you can give it a try. It's not going to factor. So you can try to factor, but it won't factor, right? If you try the 2 parentheses, what multiplies to be 22? What times what's 22? 2 and 11 is about the only thing I know. Can they make 10? Can they add to be 10 in the middle? No way. So forget it. It doesn't factor, right? Nothing good happens with factoring. So skip it. Go right on to your friend, the quadratic formula. He's your friend. He'll help you. Negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Right? So just plug in the a, b, and c to the quad.
2 times over 2 again. 1,000. Oh, 10 times 10. 100. Huh?
doing okay. Negative. Oh, did you notice that the b becomes positive? Well, I mean, it's
Yeah.
negative 10. Does everybody see what I'm talking about there? Because the formula says negative, right? Negative whatever b is, and b itself is already negative. So it's negative 10. It's going to be plus 10. Is everybody good with that? B squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. Is that good? Plug it all in. You got the Casio Natural Display. It'll handle the whole thing. One big fell swoop.
You have to show me that. I tried, I couldn't get it.
Yeah. All right. So, and then that's 10 plus or minus the square root of 100 minus, what is that, 88
Yeah.
over 2. And then that's 10 plus or minus square root of 12 over 2. Am I doing that right? We good to there?
Mm-hmm.
Y'all good to there? So keep going now. Break down that 12. That 12, you use your calculator. Okay. Yeah. So do the fraction. Okay, then on the top go. There's two names, right? So there's, remember the formula? Remember the formula? It's negative whatever b is. And b has its own negative.
If you use this, then yeah. If you use this calculator, then yeah. I'll plug in.
So there's two names. There's the negative and the
The harmful 14 we have the graph from
Right here, right here. I'll get to
Yeah,
that.
but the dollar problem
But right now,
for the finding
so we got the negative and
the point and slope, you just do this by itself. You just type in the x and y.
so negative. I'm not down to there. I'm just right here in the front, not even the roof. I'm right here in the very front. I'll come back.
All right, so we good to there. So this will be 10 plus or minus. Your calculator will tell you the root of 12 is what? 4 times 3, 2, 2. 2 2's in, 1 2 out. 3 left inside, like that. We good to there? Right, good to there? Now, right? Now those 3 will all cancel. Right? Divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2. Divide them all by 2, leaves a 1, a 5, a 1, and a 1. So it's 5. That's a scribbly 5. It's 5 plus or minus 1 root 3 over 1. But you don't need that 1 on the bottom, right? We don't need 1s on the bottom. They do nothing. So it's 5 plus or minus 1 root 3. So that's 5 plus root 3, 5 minus root 3. We're done. We good with that? Are we good? Please nod yes or no. Like if you've got it or you don't got it. So I know whether to speed up or slow down. Are we good? Give me a little feedback, then I'll know. Questions I can answer? Is anything unclear up there? Make sense?
That's negative.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Yeah, why is that 10 positive? Guys, think with me for a second. Let me turn my thing. Okay, yeah, so what if I give you this? What if I say, hey, I've got this formula. X. If I just say, okay, if I go over and say, all right, I'm trying to say it as clear as I can. If I say X is negative 3, for example, and I'm going to plug into this formula over here, 2 times X. Okay, think with me for a second. If I say X is negative 3, that means wherever I find X, replace it with negative 3. That's what that means, right? Because X is negative 3.
It's going to be the negative.
Hold on, please. And then you plug in negative 3 there, right? Into the, say the 2x. I'm just making up some new formula. Just giving you the concept. Then that'd be 2 times negative 3, right? I know there's a few people, I know it's not just you, I know a few people have this question. It's a good question. Why did that become positive here? Right? You guys with me? If I have a formula like 2x, and I know that x is negative 3, and I plug in the negative 3 right there, then it becomes 2 times negative 3, which is negative 6. Right? Good so far? That makes sense? That not make sense? We good? Okay. Now what if instead of 2 times x, what if the formula is negative times x? Then do the same thing. That negative here is part of the formula. And then the x plugged in is got its own negative 3. And those two negatives will make it back to positive. Right? You get that idea? If there's a negative in the formula, and you plug in a negative for the letter, you got two negatives positive. Right? Well, that's what we have happening here with the quadratic formula. See, there's a negative in the formula. See, right? The formula we use every time has its own minus sign from the formula, right at the very front. Not going to any of the other signs, just this one right at the very front, right? That means when I plug in B right here, if B has got his own minus sign that he brings with him, then we'll have two minus signs. And it'll become plus. See the two minus signs here? This is the one from B. B had his own minus sign, right? Maybe if I made them two different colors, it'd help. So in other words, see how B has his own minus sign, and then there's the minus sign from the formula. So do you see that? So right here, B is minus 10. So right in that B slot, there's B minus 10, and then there's the minus built into the formula. See the two different minus signs? Is that good? Well, I got to move on. If that's not good, you need to hang out with me after class for a little bit, because you got to get that down. So I'm glad to help you, but I got to move on. So there's our two answers on that. All right. All right. Let's try this one. 3x squared equals 5x plus 7. All right. Give that one a try. What's the first thing you have to do?
Get a 0.
Jump it all over and get a 0.
So it's negative 5?
That's right.
X minus 7?
Because I'll show you how to plug these in. So go ahead and get your 0, and then I'll show you how to plug these in. This will be super easy. Let me make sure I've got it straight here for a minute, too. Right. Get your 0. Here, right. Now you get your project from in there. So go ahead and plug that stuff in. Here, do this one. Actually,
Negative 25.
B squared.
You can correct that, you know that?
go ahead and just write
You
it
didn't
literally
correct that?
verbatim. Just copy it right there.
No, you couldn't.
That's why you put it on the page.
Why?
I hear what you're saying, but I want you to
Practice this
literally without anything to copy it.
Correct it.
That's fine.
Practice
Keep that.
That's you.
double check your hands.
Give yourself a little room.
So the outside is 5, right? Positive is 2 negative and positive.
Just, I feel like we're not doing it. I want this actual thing, just with no changes at all. Not any, almost like I could rip this out. Yeah, just literally put it there. Yeah, good.
That shit's crazy.
Good, yeah.
So you got in the box.
What'd you get on the box?
That bar, by the way, can you
Probably
guys-
did it wrong.
Hey, that bar was
I got plus 84 in the box.
Okay, make sure that bar.
Plus 84 that's it?
Yeah, over 6.
It's not.
What the 5 squared?
Anyway, great. Okay, yeah, so you did that right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Once you erase
Well, I said you said plus 84.
Oh, 25 plus 84. You just put that calculator.
Yeah.
Skip
Well,
this.
hold on. And erase this B right here, both of these. Leave the 2 power. And actually put parentheses, like a placeholder, like a slot. Same thing. Yeah, just like the answers. And you don't want to be careful. What is B? What is B?
And the other one's 5 minus 109 versus.
So the same thing. Let's change this one.
Yeah, let's go with your race part, let's go for that back to.
You ever played a game Left 4 Dead?
You know the first question we had?
Just around the numbers, just the A is
Oh, sure.
B at what's
The thing you're looking at, the wheel.
Oh, for course.
Oh, that's for your car company. Like, pair that around you. You won't get jammed.
It's hard. I hate when people do that. Why would you be carrying around your signal?
Oh, right.
Just lock your car.
Put a freaking bobcat in there.
Put something. Take up the keyboard.
Put a panther in there. It's called bobcat.
Good, good. But then we can just type it in or E. Yeah. Okay. Move on.
You get it every time. Oh, it's everything instead of friends. These guys are fucking good.
Yeah, great. And then you just type this in, just hit the fraction button. And then, do that. Yep. And just, now, there's a part where you can
Now, I think they did say
It's everywhere. Funny Jeremy is a tiny It's retarded. Why would you buy this?
All right, we good on that? Jump it over, 3x squared minus 5x minus 7 is 0. This is A, this is B, this is C. And we've got the quadratic formula, the negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. And then, what is it? So negative B, negative 5. Come on, Brett. Getting all scribbly. So it's negative 5 plus or minus square root of B squared minus 4 times A times C all over 2 times A. And so that's 5 plus or minus the square root of 25. That's going to be plus, what's that? 12, 84?
Yeah, 84.
Over 6. That's 5 plus or minus the root of 109. 109 over 6. 109, that doesn't clean up, does it?
That's the answer.
Doesn't do anything. That's just it. But you got to make the two separate versions, right? So you got to have 5 plus the root of 109 over 6, comma, 5 minus the root of 109 over 6. Or maybe it'll let you type in a plus minus option. I'm not sure. Is that good to there? That makes sense on that?
And you can't go any further than that, can you?
No.
The 109.
What's that?
I think here's the 109.
Try it in your calculator. Say it's just some decimal.
Do it the other way?
Yeah, good question. If you do it the other way, you try to break it down, nothing multiplies to be 109. Yeah, we don't have 2 of anything to ship out. No. Yeah, come up after. I'll be glad to help. So let's see.